Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Entertainment with Buford and Francis. Today I'm cosplaying as Buford Van Stom from Phineas and Ferb, and I'll be telling another Toy Story. You've all heard me tell the original Toy Story, but this one is called Toy Story 2. Enjoy the video. Buzz Lightyear is on an adventure in outer space. He finds a cluster of red laser beams landing on him, which turn out to be hostile robots. Buzz fires his laser at a series of rock crystals, creating an explosion. The robots are blasted into several pieces. Then, Buzz runs to the wall as a robotic camera pops out. The camera trains its sights right on him. After he blows up the camera, an earthquake occurs, and the platform Buzz is on turns into an underground cave. When a Z-shaped pit opens, Buzz is forced to jump into the cave and it turns on his glow-in-the-dark system. The pit closes, putting the area into total darkness. Buzz then traverses through Zurg's fortress, dodging several obstacles. At the end, he comes face to face with evil Emperor Zurg, who kills him, but it turns out this was all a video game that Rex has been playing. He is upset about losing the game, mostly because of his small arms. Meanwhile, Woody and the other toys are searching for Woody's lost hat until Slinky Dog finds it. As soon as Woody retrieves his hat, Buster breaks into Andy's room, terrorizing the toys. Buster stalks Woody and licks him in the face, becoming great friends. Andy then comes into his room, preparing to leave for cowboy camp with Woody. Unfortunately, during his playtime, within 5 minutes before departure, Andy accidentally rips Woody's arm and is unable to take him to camp. After being placed on the shelf, Woody watches Andy leave without him and becomes dismayed. That night, he has a nightmare of Andy coming home from camp early and throwing him into a trash can because of his torn arm. When he wakes up the next morning, he hears coughing from behind some dusty books and finds another broken toy, Wheezy the penguin. Wheezy tells him that Andy's mom was supposed to get Wheezy's squeaker fixed, but instead put him on the shelf. Sadly, the dust makes this broken squeaker worse, maybe against a fear he'll soon be thrown away. When Wheezy is set out for a yard sale, Woody manages to rescue him, but ends up in the yard sale himself. He is seen by Al, an obsessive Grady toy collector and proprietor of Al's Toy Barn. He tries to buy Woody from Andy's mother, but she refuses to sell him. Having failed to negotiate a sale, Al creates a distraction and steals Woody, prompting Buzz to take action. He slides down the gutter and into the yard sale and sees Al getting into his car after packing Woody in the trunk. Buzz manages to get in the car as Al is driving away. By the time he opens the trunk, Buzz loses his grip from the car and Al escapes. However, a clue is presented to Buzz as the car speeds away. A feather from Al's truck lands in front of him. Buzz tells the other toys the bad news, so they try to investigate the culprit. However, Buzz is trying to type the license plate number that he briefly saw in Al's car, LZTYBRN, to track it and whoever he was, while the rest of the toys, including Etch-a-Sketch, were having problems doing an identity portrait of Al. When Mr. Potato Head gets fed up with Buzz trying to investigate the license plate message with Mr. Spell and irritably tells the others to leave Buzz to play with his toy, the word toy causes Buzz to decipher what the license plate said, Al's Toy Barn, and consequently orders Etch-a-Sketch to draw the man in a chicken suit, which Al wears in the commercials he films for his store. The toys realize that the man in the commercial was the kidnapper. They later managed to find an Al's Toy Barn commercial playing on TV to trace a map to the shop. Buzz then heads out to Al's Toy Barn with Rex, Potato Head, Ham, and Slinky Dog to rescue Woody. Meanwhile, Woody is taken to Al's adults-only apartment, where he is greeted by a yodeling cowgirl named Jessie, an affectionate horse named Bullseye, and Stinky Pete the Prospector, an unsold toy still in its original box. They reveal to Woody that he is a vintage Sheriff Woody collectible doll and the star of a forgotten children's TV show, Woody's Roundup. Along that way, Woody discovers that his show had been canceled due to the launch of Sputnik, and children finding more interest in space than the Wild West. which Woody replying how he knows that feels. Now that Al has a Woody doll, he has a complete collection, and while playing with some of the toys, Woody learns that Al intends to sell the whole collection to a museum in Japan. But Woody tells him he can't go as he is still Andy's toy. This shocks the others, and Jessie starts to panic about going back into storage. The prospector explains that up until Woody's arrival, the three of them have been in storage, as Al needed the entire collection, and without Woody, they will be placed back into storage. Later, Al arrives and accidentally rips off Woody's torn arm completely, making Woody to attempt to recover his arm and then return to Andy, but his plan fails. Al then gets a repairman who fixes Woody and overpaints the name Andy on his boot. After that, a suddenly depressed Jessie tearfully tells Woody he can go now, while sarcastically agreeing at first. Bullseye sadly nudges Woody. Prospector also advises Woody to talk to her before he does leave. Woody does try to tell Jessie how much Andy means to him, but she sadly explains to Woody she felt the same way about another. She then explains of how she once had an owner named Emily who loved and played with her, but eventually outgrew her and gave her away, leaving her abandoned. The prospector warns Woody he will face the same fate as Jessie when Andy grows up. Woody decides to stay with the Roundup gang to go to the museum, now believing that all toys eventually got discarded by their owners. At the same moment, Buzz and his friends search for Al at Al's toy barn. After Buzz orders his friends to split and look for Al, he discovers an aisle full of newer Buzz Lightyears and gets in a scuffle with a new Buzz Lightyear, who, like the real Buzz at first, does not realize that he is a toy. The real Buzz then ends up being tied up and repackaged in a box and set on the shelf for sale by the deluded Buzz, who then sets off with the other toys for Al's apartment, genuinely believing that he is attempting to rescue a hostage from his arch enemy, Emperor Zurg. The original Buzz frees himself and follows them to the apartment, but he accidentally frees an Emperor Zurg toy, who follows to destroy him while exiting the store, not realizing he is a toy. The toys make it to the apartment and climb up in the elevator. Meanwhile, Al packs up for his trip to Japan. After he leaves, the 4 Roundup gang members put on a show. When the toys reach the apartment, Woody tells them he does not want to be rescued and intends on going with his new friends to Japan. After the original Buzz arrives and proves to Woody and the other toys that he is the real Buzz by showing Andy's name on his foot, an ironic reversal between both toys, he reminds Woody, "You are a child's plaything. You are a toy." He also said that the reason he came to save Woody was that Buzz believed in him. Woody, figuratively and literally, turns his back on Buzz, telling him that he intends to go to the museum with his Roundup gang so they won't go back into storage, and that Buzz has wasted his time coming over to the rescue. Disappointed that Woody doesn't want to go home, Buzz's group leaves without Woody, and with Rex telling the group that Andy is coming home tonight, but not before Buzz says a rather upset farewell to Woody, warning him that in the museum he will end up spending the rest of his life watching kids from behind glass and never being loved again, and leaves him to contemplate his decision. However, Woody soon has a change of heart after seeing his TV self singing "You've Got a Friend in Me" to a boy that looks like Andy, realizing that Buzz is right as he tells the prospector that he can't stop Andy from growing up, but he wouldn't want to miss it for the world, shocking the prospector, and, after calling Buzz and the group back, invites the Roundup gang to come home to Andy with him. Bullseye agrees to go, while Jessie was nervous about the choice, but the prospector escapes from his box and locks them in the room, revealing that he framed Jessie for turning on the TV to prevent Woody from escaping last night and desperately wanting to go to the museum. Since he was never sold or play with, he will not have Woody mess it up for him. Al returns and packs the Roundup gang, and the rest of the toys give chase, but when arrive at the elevator, the Emperor Zurg toy shows up. The second Buzz battles him, and in a showdown mimicking a similar scene from The Empire Strikes Back, Zurg reveals himself to be Buzz's father, shortly before his defeat at Rex's tail. The other toys resume that rescue mission and hijack an unattended Pizza Planet delivery truck and chase out of the airport in it along with 3 aliens. The second Buzz remains behind with Zurg, playing father and son games, and the original Buzz bids farewell. After arriving at the airport, Buzz and his group free Woody and Bullseye from the suitcase. The prospector has other plans, though, and he re-tears Woody's arm, even though it still works. However, Buzz and his group come to Woody's rescue after the prospector rants at the group, telling them that children destroy toys and they'll end up being forgotten and spend an eternity in a landfill. They stick him in a little girl's backpack so he can learn the true meaning of playtime. Prospector is terrified to learn that the little girl likes to draw on all of her toys before sobbing in despair. Woody then concludes, "Happy trails, Prospector." Jessie, however, finds herself in trouble and remains trapped in the suitcase. Woody and Buzz ride Bullseye to rescue her from being taken to the museum on her own. Woody manages to find Jessie inside the plane, but just as they're about to escape, the door closes and the plane heads for the runway. Woody finds another way out of the plane through a small hatch that leads down to the landing gear wheel, and as they are doing so, he slips on the tar, but Jessie catches him. When the plane is in the main runway, Woody knows that time is running out. In true Woody's Roundup style, he uses his pull string to swing him and Jessie down to safety on Bullseye's back, just seconds before the plane takes off. Their mission accomplished, the toys now make their way home using a luggage cart from the airport. Just then, Andy returns home from cowboy camp, seeing Jessie, Bullseye, and the aliens. He decides to add them to his toy collection. Woody's ripped arm is repaired by Andy himself, and he's glad that he decided not to take Woody to camp, as his whole arm might have come off before leaving. The events of the airplane's cargo hold have a terrible and hilarious consequence for Al, as he is now depressed. After Ham fails at the Buzz Lightyear video game, he flips through the channels and sees Al and Al's Toy Barn commercial, crying since he lost the Roundup gang and the money he was going to get for the delivery, which is why in the commercial he's selling everything for a buck. As Al cries over his loss of money, Ham says a somewhat humorous remark about Al and his scheme. Well, I guess crime doesn't pay. Meanwhile, Buzz becomes a bit smitten with Jessie. Mrs. Potato Head adopts the aliens to Mr. Potato Head's dismay, while a fixed Wheezy sings a Frank Sinatra-style version of "You Got a Friend in Me," as Buzz asks Woody if he's still worried about Andy giving him up. Woody replies that he isn't worried about Andy discarding him anymore, that when it is all over, he will have Buzz to keep him company for infinity and beyond.